take a look at the ship menu in the TSN Sandbox. On the left here, the ship menu is labelled SHP. This is the one that GMs will be using most to be able to spawn enemy ships and allied ships from different factions. If I click on that, it opens this block menu here. It gives you the clear button as normal, and you can also switch off from the ship menu by clicking on any of the other buttons. So I can click clear just to clear it off completely, or I can click on a different menu to move around to those different menus. At the top you'll notice there is this button here. This button doesn't do anything, and neither does this one, they're just indicators. So it shows you the value of the side of the enemy ships that you'll spawn. Players are automatically on side 2 when they spawn for the first time, and they usually stay on side 2 for the full game. You can change the player side, but that's not really necessary in most games. Side 1 is the default enemy side. You can select side 2 to set enemies to the player side, so any ships to player side that you spawn, so they'll show up as neutrals to the players. There's also side 3 all the way through to 12 as well. These are just different enemy sides. You can use the side values to be able to set up interesting situations. For example, you could have some enemies on side 1, some on side 2, and some on side 3. The neutrals to the player will be enemies to side 1 and side 3, and side 1 will be enemies to side 3 and to the neutrals, and side 3 will be enemies to side 1 and the neutrals. So you can set up interesting 3-way battles. You could even do 4-way or 5-way battles if you really wanted, because each side will treat the other side as an enemy and act accordingly. I'm going to spawn some ships on side 1 to start off with. If I want to spawn them in a particular location, I right click to move my Game Master cursor there. That's where the enemy fleet will spawn. Underneath I have all my different factions that I can spawn, including a separate button for bases. So at the top I've split the human faction, as it were, into the TSN and the USFP. The USFP gives you 2 menus so that you can spawn single ships like the science vessel. They're all civilian focused vessels, so the science vessel, the transport, there's like a garbage scow that you can spawn, a really nice ugly looking ship, that one. There's also some different fleets that you can spawn, like a mining convoy, which would have a couple of escorts and then a couple of mining ships. A research convoy that has a couple of science ships and an escort as well. In the TSN menu, if you click on that one, these focus on more of the combat capable ships. So you have the standard ships that you get in game. You've got something called a TSN auxiliary, which you can spawn. You also have some of the different variants of the player ships as well that we've created in the TSN mod. You've got your standard system escorts and destroyers, fighters, bombers, shuttles, and then you can spawn small groups of ships as well, where it'll spawn 2 or 3 ships, like patrol boats together and destroyers together. The rest are just the other factions that you can spawn in game. There's usually a single menu and a group menu, so you can spawn individual ships, or you can spawn them as small fleets. The hegemony menu is probably the most extensive one that I've done, because it's the one that we use most commonly. There's Krellian fleets that you can spawn, mixed fleets with Krellians and Torgoths. Carrier fleets include Arvonian carriers as well. Command fleets have special command ships in there that are particularly difficult to take on, and then convoys include a Krellian transport within it. There's also single enemies that you can spawn, so every single ship in the hegemony fleet that you can spawn individually as well. So there's the light cruiser, the drone cruiser, the medium cruiser. The medium is the battleship and the heavy is the dreadnought. Same with the Torgoth as well. Rather than using the normal names, I've gone for light, medium and heavy to make it clearer to people who don't necessarily know the names. They know they'll be spawning a heavy ship. The Hjordan, USF, Natani and Caltron are all TSN mod factions that we've added. So to be able to use this sandbox properly and to make sure there's no errors, you really need to be using the TSN mod with it. Otherwise, if you try and spawn one of these ships, particularly with the hegemony as well, if you try and spawn those and you don't have the mod, it ends up crashing the game. The pirates, there are the standard pirates, we've called them the skull pirates in this, and there's also the Euphini pirates, which are the ones that we added as part of the mod. So to spawn, I select where I want them to go, I click on the faction that I want, and I select which particular ships that I want. So here I'm going to just spawn a light Krellian group. You can see when they're spawned, in the sandbox there's an automatic naming code that goes into it so that you can actually control the fleet with AI, which I'll go through in a different video. They all spawn with the same letter at the front and then a random 2-digit number afterwards. So we call this group alpha. If I spawn a second group, so I'm going to spawn another light Krellian fleet, and you'll see this is group Bravo. Those enemies have a default AI set to them that means that they will start to track the TSN Sabre and move to attacker. If there was some bases in there, they'd start looking at bases and things. I can change their AI as we go along. If I go down to here, there's the bases menu. This allows me to spawn different types of bases, so I've sorted them into military base, civilian base and defense platforms. Because there's fewer bases, I've not put them in the individual factions menu, I've just put them together in one particular menu. The military bases, you can see there's the standard TSN bases, there's the standard Krellian bases and Skyrim bases, there's a special asteroid base and the tiny base in Jordan. Civilian bases, we have the standard bases and a hegemony base as well. And there's two types of defense platforms. The hegemony defense platform includes a fighter bay as well, so they can launch defensive fighters. The defensive platforms are actually neutrals. So here you can see this is a USFP weapons platform. That's actually classed as a ship in game. So it spawns as a ship. It means that it's got the shield set up and players can't dock with it. We've also got a hegemony defense platform there as well. The rest of the bases, if I spawn those, so I'll spawn a Krellian base here, spawns as a standard base. On the science map, all these appear as indicators for these that need to be scanned for the actual defense platforms, and then the enemy base appears in red. If I select a friendly base, if I want to select a friendly base and spawn that, I need to spawn it in as side 2, the player side. I can go in and I can spawn like a deep space base. It means that you can set up all sorts of different situations on the fly in empty sectors in the sandbox. A lot of sectors already have things added in, but you can add in extra bases and extra defensive platforms and fleets and things like that. As I say, it's one of the menus that I use most often when I'm running a game, because I'm constantly going in here, setting up enemy fleets along the perimeter, and then controlling them using the AI. So the other menu that I've used a lot is the AI menu. This I'll go through in another video.